Welcome to another episode of Masked Monologues, the anonymous podcast dedicated to creatives. Each week, I dive into conversations with a diverse array of creatives from various industries to explore their unique processes and stories. If you're enjoying the show and want to support us, please consider leaving a review or sharing it with a friend. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Masked Monologues. Today, I'm excited to have Geoffrey Cole here with me. He is from supermind.us, and he's going to introduce himself, tell us about what he does.
Hi there, I'm Jeff Cole, and I'm really glad to be here today speaking with you. I'm excited to share what we do and be a part of your network. I am the co-founder and president of Supermind, and we provide augmented neuroplasticity to help people become in charge of their nervous system to be able to live from much higher levels of humanity. So their animal instincts aren't interfering with how they live their lives. And the way our process works is like the GPS for your car, right? We start with a mind mapping, which is a QEEG mapping out your neural networks in a chart that shows us where you are. And then together we decide where you want to go. And we provide the directions to get there. So when I say where you want to go, that's in neurological function, which really translates to how you live your life on a daily basis. So most people at the end of the day are sleeping better, getting rid of all focus problems. We're literally wiping anxiety, depression, and PTSD off the face of the earth. And it's really exciting to be able to do what we do. And so as we map the mind and decide where you want to go, we give you directions in the sessions. And as you're going through the session, we're mapping your neural programming and how you process how you're living and how you're going through the program. So if you take a wrong turn, the computer automatically makes adjustments to guide you back to be on the right path to get to where you want to go. And so that's why on average, more than 90% of our clients are having more than 50% change in things like anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Our average improvement in sleep is like 60%. So we're really revolutionizing psychological therapy for the world.
I love that. And I was scrolling through your website the other day and I noticed that you had a very emotive video on your website explaining why you started this. Can you please tell us about why you decided to start this company with your co-founder and what it did for you in your life?
Wow, that's a big question there. Really, what motivated me to do this was suffering. I suffered a lot and I went through and lived through a lot of trauma. And the trauma throughout my life really caused me to have a lot of difficulties. And I lived with depression for 7 years of my life. And this depression, unfortunately, one that I couldn't get help from. And I learned pretty quickly how to cope with a depressive system that really caused me to wake up every day knowing that I should just kill myself, that I shouldn't bother getting up. I woke up every day in a deep, dark place and learned how to understand that just wasn't true and practice different mindfulness techniques, different self-direction techniques to, by the end of the day, be reasonably happy. So for 7 years, I would do this process every day, go to bed reasonably happy and wake up semi-suicidal. I tried medications. I tried Reiki. I tried yoga. I tried everything I could find over and over again. The same thing kept happening. I did sleep studies, and according to the sleep studies, I slept fine. Of course, unfortunately, in sleep studies, they don't keep track of what you're thinking. They don't keep track of the mental side of sleep. All they keep track of is the physiological cycles. And I was going through the cycles. I was sleeping. I was doing my 8 hours. I was having a plenty of REM and deep sleep and light sleep. Unfortunately, I was waking up in that deep, dark, horrible space. And so because I became a good coper, I also began to help others, and I was working for a psychologist. And along with my depression, I had anxiety problems. I also had anxiety attacks. So I was actually counseling people how to cope with these horrific things I was living. And I did that from 2001 till 2000 when I found that. And I found a person who had invented a system. I went and I studied with him for months and then brought neurofeedback into our psychological services office. I began to incorporate the neuroscience into our practice back then. By 2009, I realized that the whole industry survives on subjective data. With the neurofeedback system, I was able to create objective data. I started to create a whole new science. Since then, we have treated thousands of people with outcomes that more than 90% of our patients have more than 50% improvements in their lives. That's why I started, why I continue to do it.
And for those who might not be familiar, can you tell us what neurofeedback is? And also, I noticed when I was reading through what your company does, it related a lot to sound therapy because I noticed you're tracking the brainwaves, the signals using sound. Is that correct or is that inaccurate? Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So feedback just means feedback to nervous system energy. There's a lot of feedback systems out there. We have created our own, really, it's a brain computer interface that, like you said, tracks your brain waves and assigns a sound to different levels of your brain waves because each level has a different function for us. And so, like you said, when you're on our system, the computer is doing 206 measurements per second and analyzing all the way down to half of a hertz up to 60 hertz what brainwave patterns you're creating. And as you create those, we mirror and guide your brainwaves with sounds. So from point 0.5 to 3 hertz, there's a healing sound that is actually a recording of a healing waterway in the Himalayas. And so you're actually hearing a recording that was done live at that stream that modulates in sync with your brain waves at that frequency, at the other levels that are put together in little groups of brainwave frequencies. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. Now, I want to know you track these brainwave signals, and how do you reprogram your brain circuits, and what do you do to apply this feedback that you've gotten?
So we're really providing augmented neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is a big word for how our nervous system changes. And the augmentation is that we're tracking it with our computer and we are advising you how to make change in your nervous system patterns. So it's permanent as long as you keep applying. So we're teaching you these techniques. So, for example, we're going to teach you a breathing technique. And the breathing technique we like to use is breathe into the count of 3, hold your breath for 3, breathe out for 3. And then we teach how to visualize and relax. So, you're doing the breathing, you're imagining you're in a calm and quiet place. And then we suggest for you to relax into the chair that you're sitting in, which just means become a blob in the chair. Blah. And so, as you're doing that, your nervous system is going to calm down. And the computer keeps track of the level of calm. And then the calmer you get, the level of the sounds, those healing sounds you're hearing for whichever levels of your mind that we're working on get louder. So it's a reward for doing good self directed neuroplasticity. And that's how the system really works.
And based on the feedback you get from the different brainwaves that you've gotten, have you noticed that there's techniques that work better for some people compared to others? Have you noticed that, or is it somewhat the same for each individual?
So it varies vastly. Your question is right on point. I have people that do that breathing technique and their nervous system actually creates more anxiety. So instead of calming, it makes them more nervous. So we teach people how to overcome that. We also suggest that you try different breathing techniques and find the one that works best for you. The point is, as you focus on your breathing, often it reduces the worry side of your thinking process. The other thing that many people have had problems with is visualize. A lot of people that have come into our office cannot imagine that they're in a calm and quiet place. Some people have never felt safe in their lives. Some people don't even feel safe feeling safe. So when they get safe, their nervous system actually gets more nervous. So there's lots of different responses to that initial direction I gave you. And we track that in the brainwaves. So we don't actually have to ask the patient what their response is. The brainwaves will tell us without us even having to have a conversation. And then we can create different techniques. For example, if somebody does have a problem with the breathing or the visualizing, we say, just go ahead and sit in the chair and become a blob and just relax and don't worry about the breathing. Do you feel safe? And if they feel safe, then say, let's celebrate that you feel safe. So just say, I am so glad I feel safe. And then relax in the chair. So yes, you had a very good question. And there are a lot of different ways to teach a person to self-direct and do self-directed neuroplasticity to be able to create calmer patterns. And it's all about, at the end of the day, helping people become in charge of impacting their nervous system to serve them instead of try to control them.
I'm wondering if you're someone who has PTSD or you have some anxiety disorder, a lot of the times, as you were saying, you don't want to resort to that safe place because you're always cautious of what's around you and you're hesitant to let down your guard. How long does it usually take someone with PTSD or someone with an anxiety disorder while they're implementing these breathing techniques, these visualization techniques? How long would it take to recover?
So the PTSD, there's lots of different forms of it. PTSD, the most PTSD patients start to be able to feel safe while they're with us in session by the fourth or fifth session. The brain computer interface, the neurofeedback algorithms that we're using help break down that resistance to safe, to feeling safe and guide people to a place, even with complex PTSD, where they actually start to feel safe. And it's a beautiful, exciting moment when I can see the brainwaves finally move into the patterns that show that. It's just amazing.
And I'm interested to know your computer programming and your algorithm. Did you create that yourself with your company? And what was the process of creating that, if you did? And is it something that you drew from other resources, like other computer programs and algorithms that you've seen in the past? Or can you talk about what technology you're using?
I really got to map your mind because you're asking me some really poignant questions here. The algorithms have been developed over the last 17 years, and I've taken them from many different resources. And like I said in the beginning, I went and trained with a person who had created their own system. And so I used some of his information to build my algorithms. I'm not aware of another system that uses the same neurofeedback mechanisms that we created. And I've used bits and pieces from 7 different neurofeed systems that I've used over time, as well as I've read probably 12 to 15 different neurofeedback mechanism patents and drawn from those as well. And it's ever evolving. So we are also experimenting with different ones in our office at all times. And when they show better efficacy or more widespread acceptance by multiple people's different nervous systems, we then start to implement in the office. So we developed it. My partner, Chad Olin, and I spent lots and lots of time really as ourselves as guinea pigs with lots of different mechanisms to see how our nervous systems reacted before we ever did it on anybody else. The system we have now is running so amazingly tickled pink. I'm just so happy about it. So it's exciting to watch it change people's lives.
Yes, and I want to ask, I know a lot of people struggle with insomnia or are just sleep deprived most of the time. These breathing techniques that you have, these visualization techniques, and the sound wave mapping that you have, the system, the computer program system, how do you use that to help people get a better sleep? And are there any general tips and tricks or pieces of advice that you can tell to someone? Let's say I'm just basing this off of personal experience. I'm the type of person who I am constantly thinking about things, and that's just ruins my sleep at all times where you're thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got that. And then before you know it, it's 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning and you still haven't gone to sleep. So I want to know how you help patients using these neural mapping techniques, your sound programs to give them a better sleep and how long it would take for them to get that better sleep.
So sleep is very important for nervous system change. So we focus on sleep as a big part of our program. And another amazing question that's very practical. And the mapping, when we start, I can identify the sleep issues and typically help people understand why they have the sleep issue. Once a person immediately understands the cause of their sleep issue, then that often can help them make immediate correction. Second, as I said earlier, I had a major sleep issue and it wasn't the physical. It's like you're talking about. It was because of what was going on in my mind. And we have very specific tools and techniques on how to counteract that. And so I will email you several of our sessions. I'm going to email you session 3 and session 6, the video of me explaining a lot of these tools and techniques for sleep, as well as the actual slide deck that has all the information on it. And you could probably apply some of the techniques to help you sleep better. Just for your listeners, sleep is mental and physical. We're entirely mental and physical. And so it's very important to pay attention to the mental side of sleep. So one of the first techniques we teach in our program is how to calm your nervous system. So like you said, especially when we're going to sleep, our system is trying to figure out what, while you're sleeping, all your systems of your body are going to be rejuvenating you for, right? Because sleep is our process of rejuvenation. And basically, there's 12 systems of the body, and all of them rejuvenate every night while you're sleeping, if you sleep well enough. What am I doing tomorrow? And what's important to me to be ready for tomorrow? If you're not mentally directing that to yourself, your nervous system has to figure that out, which is why we dream. It's a big part of that whole dreaming mechanism. It's our un and subconscious trying to figure out what's important to us so that it knows what and how to rejuvenate each system to be ready for. And so according to the studies, 80% of our nervous system change happens while sleeping. That's how important sleep is. We're adding new neural networks. We're purging the ones that aren't serving us. We're adding and clearing out waste and getting ready for the new day. First of all, I would practice mindfulness techniques to be able to calm your mind and then use those when you're going to sleep. Second, have a routine. Find the best routine practices for going to sleep. Third, I would start journaling before you go to sleep. And in that journal, write all the things that you want to be handling tomorrow. And that way, when you're laying down to go to sleep, if you think about it, you can say, oh, it's there. It's in my journal. I'll look at it tomorrow and I'll know what to do. Right now, I'm here to go to sleep. So you can then redirect yourself that it's time to go to sleep. And that you want that to be part of your routine, your ritual. So your system knows that it's sleep time and start to self-direct the purpose of tonight's sleep. For example, I lay myself to go to sleep and I am going to, or I really want to, sleep for 8 hours. So let's get this 8 hours sleep. And I want to wake up happy and ready for my new day because tomorrow is going to be really exciting. a big part of what our nervous system is doing is trying to figure out what's wrong and trying to get us ready to fix it. I also like to direct my nervous system, but I want to stop doing that. I want to stop living from fear. I want to stop having my nervous system rejuvenate based on fear-based philosophies and thoughts. What I really want to do is live from love. And so I direct my nervous system every night when I go to sleep to rejuvenate all of my nervous systems to function from the intentions, understandings, perceptions, and processes of love rather than living from fear. So
Yes.
from doing all that, I cured my depression. And that's basically how I did.
I want to dive more into the specifics of your sleep issues. So you said that you had tests done to see that you were sleeping, and the test results came back saying that you physically went through all the cycles of sleep. You were getting enough sleep. You were going through the different stages of sleep. Why do you think that the computer programs, the technology they were using to assess that didn't take the mental aspect of sleep into consideration?
They don't have that ability right now. I have created that ability, and right now it's only in my offices. We have not shared that with the sleep science people at this time. So they're unaware. They don't track your mental thought patterns while you're sleeping. So it's not possible for them to do that. And I've made a lot of discoveries in the last 15 years. One of those is that the area of our brains that directs sleep is also responsible for our self-esteem and our self-identity. So one of the reasons why a lot of people don't sleep well is because they haven't reconciled. When I say reconciled, they haven't fully accepted who they are, and they may not love themselves. And so sleep is directly affected by how much of your life you fully accepted yourself and forgiven yourself for anything you may think you have done wrong. That directly affects how well you sleep. They don't track any of that in the sleep center.
Yes. And how accurately can you track what you're thinking mentally using your technology? Because I know I've looked at other technologies or heard of other technologies, and I've noticed it's more of the signals, the brain waves that you get. But has technology advanced to the point where you can almost pinpoint what topics the person is thinking of, or if it relates back to a memory, or what it is that is troubling them? Or do you just get like a brainwave that might indicate they're having nervous, fearful thoughts, or a brainwave indicating that they're having loving, joyous thoughts?
So another amazing question. The brainwaves break down from low delta is the name of the frequency. So frequency means number of waves per second. And so they have done a lot of studies over the last 100 years to determine which frequencies do what for us in our life. And so from 0.5 to 3 is really the area of our nervous system and our minds that handle the sensory information and decide what to do with it. So the sensory motor neuron processing, all of the functions in our body and our flight and fight and other animal instincts are all happening down there. Right above that, from 3 to 8, is the theta brainwave frequencies. And theta is basically the frame of reference. That's where we house our understanding from everything that's ever happened in our lives, our perspectives, belief, and how we process. So if we're holding a resentment, that's held in theta. If we understand what a chair is, all reference to chairs is held in theta. Alpha, which is from 8 to 12, is the brainwave of joy, love, peace, happiness, and stability. Right above that is sensory motor response, which is really from 12 to 15. And then above that is is beta, which is 15 to 28. And then high beta, 28 to 38. And then gamma, which is 38 to 60. And so each one of those frequency bands has a different function for us. And like you said, anxiety can't exist. The low delta and delta waves are 50 or 60% of your nervous system, just imagine what that means. It means your nervous system, 50% of it is concerned with how you're functioning. Well, just that idea causes me anxiety. If 50% of me is worried about that, then that's overabundance of worry about how I'm functioning. So we look at the proportions to be able to tell what level is really guiding the majority of you. And so if you're all alpha, so if you're, no, nobody's not all alpha, excuse me. The way I meant to say that was, let's just say you're 35 or 40% alpha. 15% is a pretty happy person. If you're 35 or 40, then you're just
Yes.
stable. You're very happy. You're walking around like me saying, life is fantastic. If you're all beta, then that means you're just over processing all the time. You have thoughts going all the time and you're trying to figure out, what could happen, what might have happened, what should happen, what I should have done, what I should do. You can see that in beta. So that's all we get. I don't get to see images or specific topics. And we guide people how to direct themselves to have the kind of proportions for the kind of person they want to be. So obviously, if you want to be a loving person, you want more alpha than everything else.
I want to ask now, saw on your website that you have over 20 years of experience with this research in neurology. If someone who wants to get started in this industry who's interested in neurology, what training would they have to undergo?
The best thing would be to study psychoneuro in universities. Unfortunately, the information that we have discovered, we haven't shared with the universities yet. It will be coming out soon. For people who do have a background in neuroscience or in psychology, we do have a way to become a practitioner who can do what we do in their offices. It typically requires a license, and that all depends on the laws of whatever state they are functioning in or country. So they can contact us and come in and enroll in the practitioner empowerment programs that we have.
Okay. I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. I want to ask now if people want to reach out to you, connect with you, if they're interested in learning more about what your company does, if they want to book a call with you or just send an email, where can they find you and what's the best place to reach you at?
They can call the offices at 305-858-66. They can go to my website, which is geoffrey.com. They can go to supermind.us. They can DM us on Instagram at supermind.us or at my Instagram, which is realgcole. You can email me at g.cole@supermind.us or info@realgcole.com. So lots of ways to reach us, and we are out and about a lot. So you can just stop us and talk to us.
Thank you so much. And if you like this episode of Masked Monologues, then please reach out to G. Cole and say hi. Check out what he does. And if you want more episodes like this, then please share with a friend or family member and leave a review. We hope to see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Masked Monologues. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.